Get the paper, paper, get the pen. Paper, paper, get the paper, late sports final. This must be your lucky day, mister. That'll never happen again in a million years.
Okay, I'm sure you're probably wondering what's happening here, but let me begin by talking about something that struck me when I first watched this episode, Penny for Your Thoughts on The Twilight Zone. It's about a man named Hector B. Poole who happens to purchase a newspaper, obviously, and then throws a quarter in the box, and the quarter stands up by itself on edge. Poole's life gets turned upside down by being able to hear other people's thoughts and ulterior motives in their actions. There was a part towards the end of this episode when Poole says this.
You know, we do things without thinking about them at all. And we think things without having the slightest intention of doing them.
Okay, so what does this mean exactly? In other words, after falsely reading someone's thoughts, Poole quickly learns that you can't believe everything you read. In response to this, it's also fair to say that, as a writer, you can't assume that the reader knows exactly what you're writing about. After all, writing is a process, an ever-changing journey. So, does this mean that when we do write, we write without thinking about what we're trying to say, and that we think about what we write without having the slightest comprehension of the consequences, good or bad, that may happen after we write? So just imagine, as Rod Serling describes Poole, a human coin on edge for a brief time. To me, this is a powerful statement because before being in this class, the teaching of writing, I never had an appreciation or even thought about the importance of writing, let alone teaching writing. And because of this, I have always felt like a human coin on edge. But when it comes to writing, I'm always on edge. And this is a good thing because my whole outlook on how I feel and think about writing, and even more so, teaching writing, has changed. I'm saying all of this because this is making me think about my writing experiences and everything that I'm learning so far in this course. Hi, I'm Ilari Pass, and welcome to my Chaotic World of Writing presentation. I would like for you all to embark on this journey with me for a delicious and robust experience in which, I hope, can help us answer some important questions in regards to writing. For instance, the following questions are: why do writers write? What does writing mean? How do writers write experience? What role does an audience play in a writer's life? For my primary sources, I had the pleasure of interviewing 4 distinguished professors from Guilford College who impacted my life: Jenny Malbeth, Malin Dressler, Professor Emeritus Max Carter, and Douglas Smith. So what does writing mean for Jenny Malbeth? She argues everything. In other words, she uses her personal life experiences regarding her family, focus over universe, and has gotten more comfortable writing about her past experiences and has been more confessional than it used to be. However, her style and technique of writing hasn't always been that way. It was more experimental with language, which created a more detached setting. The importance of teaching her students writing. In her class poetry workshop, she creates a real community in her classroom. Her students have response and reflection journals in which her students respond in their journal entries about 2 pages long regarding any prose that is about poetry, books of poets that they have read, specific poems by a recommended list of poets, readings that they have attended, and their own writing that they're working on, all while producing about 10 poems throughout the semester in the process. In addition, Ms. Malbeth guides her students by helping them to write about process and think about how to put things together while reflecting on things that her students read and observed. For instance, writing form techniques that they have witnessed. Audience. I really don't have a particular audience in mind. I guess the audience may be out there. However, after I finish something, I kind of think about, are there other people that are going through a similar experience? Or are there readers out there that can read this and it would register at them in some way? And if I've written something that I feel that is too limited or idiosyncratic, like stuff that I care about but I don't think that anyone else would, then sometimes I kind of shelve something I'd work on. Ms. Malbeth explains further that she doesn't think too much about who's going to be a particular audience when she is writing a draft because she feels that it would smother the process. For instance, when she writes something personal or mentions someone that she knows, she would hate what that person would think about her. The perfect example of this is when she referenced Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird, where she talks about putting people in the jar and closing the lid, which helps her not to think about the reaction of what she is trying to accomplish in her writing. My next interview is with Malin Dressler, whom I had the pleasure of hearing her share her perspective of writing.
It means that I have the chance to empower people, to be able to use words in a way that will then help them create both the life they seek and maybe even the world that they seek. That's something that I actually stress in this class you're about to see, English 200. In fact, I write on the board the first day, right, that we're here together studying literature and writing because I want you to be able to, and this is an exact quote, wield the power of words in order to create the life and the world you seek. And both of those are important, right? The life that you want, which could mean the job, but it could also mean the creative life. It could mean all kinds of things. But the idea is that for me, when I walk into the writing classroom, I want to empower, I want to build what I call the core writing muscles so that people can then go out with that skill and do whatever they need to do with it. And I do hope that people will use writing to build their lives, right? There's so many wonderful ways in which you can use writing to do that. And I also hope people will use it to change the world, right, and make it a better place.
I also had a pleasure of meeting her students and asked them questions with their struggles with writing, of resonating experiences when I talked with Zane. You may pause and read these at any time. My next interview is with Professor Emeritus Max Carter, where he explains 1, what writing means to him, and the role of the audience that play in Max Carter's life as a writer.
Writing for me is a means of communicating my passions, my thoughts, my concerns, and connecting with others, either of like mind, and reading something I say might be an encouragement, or might be a challenge if they're not of the same opinion. It's a combination of expository, proclaiming a point of view, a position, and encourage, not necessarily think about attracting an audience. Days, about 1.6 billion people's audience these days is Facebook. My Facebook writing would certainly be my friends, but people have friended me for various reasons. Family, others because they share a point of view, perspective, just because they disagree with me.
What I learned from this valuable lesson from Max and his experiences as a writer is that his audience is binary in nature. People agree, some people disagree. Nuance, however, is not the order of the day, hence chaotic, which is fair to say for all writers. All the people I've interviewed, including Douglas Smith, the final interview, all share a common bond, and that is the importance of connecting and creating a real sense of community for their audiences. Douglas Smith, a professor, a poet, and a professional tutor in the Learning Commons at Guilford College, defines literature as language shaped to endure. Writers are strange creatures. They live in the world, but they do not find it adequate. So they invent other worlds, stories and poems and essays. They live by words. In other words, Smith argues that writing is a way of inventing other things to address the inadequacy, the suffering, and the pain of the world. When it comes to how writers experience writing, Smith suggests that we shape the world when we write, and so we are not just simply regurgitating experience, which is something he doesn't believe in. What we do, Smith continues, is we take an experience, for example, a personal and sometimes traumatic experience, and shape it into a form that will allow us to say something beyond our own experience, because simply repeating reality is not going to really affect anyone, except the writer, him or herself. But to actually make the experience come alive for the reader means that you have to shape it into something else. In the end, eventually, the words you create do reach out into the world and into a reader's imagination and do something there. Writing is an act of communication and therefore not a closed system. Smith points out that the reader doesn't see the difficulty of the writer's job. In fact, the writer removes the evidence of indecision and doubt in order to move the reader in a certain direction. Smith showed me a beautiful quotation from John Barth. Barth, the author of Lost in the Funhouse, suggests that the world is chaotic and strange. His protagonist in the title story recognizes the joy of fun houses in such a world. Fun houses, constructed like poems and essays to create new ways of seeing the world, are complex objects. He wishes he had never entered the fun house, but he has. Then he wishes he were dead, but he's not. Therefore, he will construct fun houses for others and be their secret operator, though he would rather be among the lovers for whom fun houses are designed. In my mind, the funhouse operator is a writer, a perfect metaphor for the person who designs beauty for others. So, can writing be taught? Smith argues that a teacher can help a student move more quickly through certain problems, and a teacher can encourage a student's passion for language, but eventually the student must do the complex work of shaping language. A teacher, in other words, can demonstrate various techniques of language, metaphor, image, form, but the student must use those techniques with passion and precision, as Smith says. Which leads to the secondary sources. Kathleen Yancey teaches us that we write in spite of. Shipka's ballet shoes metaphor is a compass, and our experiences tell us what and how to write. Donald Murray tells us that we are self-taught and we do not need to know what we're going to write. Cynthia Urbanski runs with her students in a similar fashion by providing models. She, too, does not need to know everything when it comes to writing. Wrestle reality, interrogate the ecstatic. Whenever we write, we wrestle with the reality or the chaos of the world. Then we interrogate or question the ecstatic. In other words, the reality is the stuff that makes sometimes not be so good, but we also question the things that seem to be ecstatically beautiful, such as dancing and being expressive, being thrilled and terrified. And this chaos of writing is something I want to teach my students. My current and past professors are my heroes. I now know I don't have to know anything when I'm going to write, and this is something I want to share and teach my students. The power of language. Thank you for watching. This concludes my presentation, and I look forward to reading your comments shortly. So until then, penny for your thoughts.